in her shoes, y'all better beware. It's a jungle in there. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the ring, Mr. Ric Flair. I done lied on you to a little known fact. Whenever it moves, well, it's always be flat.
Actually, see shop, but who's checking?
He even knows where the hippest knows at. And get any pretty woman in the world he wants, just like that. Woo! Who's that? Sitting over there. Woo! Sporting that big underwear. Woo! More glorious platinum hair. All young pretenders, well, you better beware. Jake the Snake unsurprisingly had a snake. Tom McGuire had paint on his face. Hacksaw Jim Duggan had a 2x4. But with style like this, man, you don't need no more. Got a lot of friends, I got a lot of foes. They be quicking in the boots when I be bouncing off the ropes. Lots of people talking, few of them know. You gotta have a tag if you wanna make that dough. Woo! Who's that sitting over there? Woo! Sporting that big underwear. Woo! Most glorious platinum hair. All you young pretenders, well, you best beware. Survive the plane crash, survive being struck by lightning. Only drive the finest cars and dines the fine and dining. People try to synthesize, don't matter which country we. You can measure a man's success by the length of his limousine. Rolex wearing, style profiling, alligator booty, limousine riding, absolutely no commercial flying. All night dancing, all night loving, kiss stealing, wheeling and dealing, son of a gun. Such a man that can be only one. Who's that sitting over there? Sporting that big underwear. More glorious platinum hair. All you young pretenders, well, you better beware. Woo! Come on, boys, take it on home now. Gospel's attitude. Woo!
So I'm here with Tom McGuire from Tom McGuire and the Brassholes, a soul funk band with influences of jazz as well into the mix and the fray of their music. Thank you very much for joining me on the podcast today.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
It's all right. It's a pleasure to have you on and taking time out, as I know you guys are very busy at the moment with the band.
Indeed, yeah, that's not a problem.
Thank you. So let's start off at the beginning, as I've been following your band now for a good 3-4 months, pretty much ever since you released the first 2 singles. So I thought we'd start at the beginning with the first 2 singles. Obviously, Ric Flair and Begone Skunks were the first 2 singles you released as a small EP. And I just wanted to know what the message was you wanted to give to the audience and whoever was listening. What sort of flavour were you wanting to let people know about Tom McGuire and the Brassholes?
Yeah, okay. So we very strategically chose that song, Ric Flair, to be the first song, the first sort of view that people would get of us, because it's the music is very fun and very immediate, but also complicated enough to be interesting. But also the subject matter is fun and immediate also, and it was a sort of like the plan was it's an entry level drug for us, really. So we give this out to begin with, and it lets people check that out, and then they can then delve further in as we slowly release it until the end point where we release the album, which is coming out this just in a week's time. We drip feed this sort of thing, this sort of more and more depth until people are ready for this record. So we intentionally started off with something that was quite light-hearted and fun, but essentially trivial. It was the funnest, sort of most immediate song we had, and we definitely intentionally released that one first. And it just so happened that it got picked up quite well. People responded to it really well. I think in part due to the video that we made for it, and we had a lot of fun doing it. The track you mentioned, Begun Skunks, it's a B-side to the single of Ric Flair, and it's again the sound of that is very immediate, very very upbeat, very funky, and it's but the subject matter of that, once one delves a little bit deeper into it, it starts to hint at what kind of things we're going to be confronting on the record itself. Mm-hmm. So hopefully people have delved into our work enough, and we've sort of eased them in that they'll be able to enjoy and consume our entire record as a whole, and experience it the way that I hope they will.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely loved both of those singles.
I think
Begun Skunks is just so damn funky.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I mean, a lot of what we're doing musically is like musicianship centric. You know, all the guys in the band are fantastic musicians, and we definitely want to showcase that. They're from a jazz background, so we want to showcase that without being self-indulgent and you know, alienating, because that really alienates a lot of people. And a lot of funk and jazz can alienate people because it's tailored to a specific thing, and sometimes it's musicians only. So we tried our best to make something that's immediately enjoyable for the casual listener, but also for those who have an interest in musicianship, because there's a lot of strong musicianship at play here. All the guys are stellar musicians, fantastically well trained and tasteful and talented guys. So yeah, we're trying to show a lot of things at once, and hopefully we're succeeding.
Yeah, fingers crossed for you guys. I mean, so with the release of Ric Flair, so you sort of said you were drip feeding the songs. When you releasing that very first single, was the band nervous at all with releasing the music, and were you happy with the reception overall over both songs?
Yes, well, the reception that we received for Ric Flair was way beyond any of our expectations. Bear in mind, this was the first time we'd really poked our heads above the parapet, and you know, shown what we can do and what we're going to be coming out with. And the response was wildly more than we expected. Something, I think we're now on something like more than 500,000 views on that right now, which is like I said, spectacularly beyond.
It's insane.
Yeah, we maybe expected a few people to enjoy it, but there was definitely some apprehension when we're releasing that, especially making the video. Making the video was the first time any of us have really done that, and it was all DIY. We did it all ourselves, really. Sorted it all ourselves on an extreme budget, and up till the night that we actually released it, we were not sure if it was actually good or not. You know, which is like you know, when you're close, you've put a lot of effort into some work, but you're too close to it to really know. So there was apprehension as to whether it was even good or not, and then it was very spectacularly well received, and that gave us some real confidence. And yeah, and it's just sort of from that point onwards, it's just been a case of trying to keep that train moving. And let me tell you, there's a lot of behind the scenes work that comes with that kind of thing.
Yeah, there always is so much behind the scenes work.
Yeah,
right
sure.
Up until maybe 6 months ago, when the first formed. Even then, you got to pick the rehearsal rooms, and this brings me on to my next point with rehearsal and sort of arrangements for songs like Ric Flair, for example.
Yeah.
How long did it actually take to write and get Ric Flair to where it is on the record?
Right. Okay, so I'll tell you broadly speaking about our process, how we work. I write a song. I come to the band with the basics of a song, the chordal structure and and maybe some vocals, and that'll be the structure upon which everyone else builds. So I'll go to the rhythm section. So that'll be the bass guitar and the drums and the keys, keyboard, and we'll pull together my song as a band, as a sort of core band. And then once that's a little bit more fully formed, one of the brass. This is how it works. And this is a new experience for me, but it's something that I've learned is the case in quite a lot of bands and that include a brass section, because all the brass parts are quite intricately pre-arranged. You know, They don't just come into a practice room and say, "Well, I don't want to play this." Somebody goes away with a bassist track, and then they essentially write, as in actually write the sheet music for an arrangement that goes on top of that song. So me and the core band write this piece of music, essentially a finished song, and then the brass come along. One of them arranges a very intricate and multi-tonal and in harmony part for all the other brass players, and they all come together in the practice room for the first time, and it's actually an amazing experience. They look at this. They look at their sheets of music, and they're all playing it for the first time, and we're all hearing it for the first time. And it all comes together. We're playing in harmony, and it's incredible. It's just, for me, certainly, speaking as somebody who's written a song and sort of sees it almost as finished, to have this extra layer of just intricate and beautiful just art put on top of it, just to make it exponentially better, is very, very exciting.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, it sounds like it exceeded your expectations when you first heard that brass section.
Well, that's it. Like I mean, I write the basic bit, and then I just leave it to the guys, and whatever they come up with, like whatever they want to put on, I just let them do it, and I don't have much control over that. In a way, it gives them some ownership of the song as well. So everybody's got a piece. Everybody's got a piece of ownership for it. So whether I like it or not, I will just accept it. And it turns out I did very much like it, but sometimes it's really not what I would expect to hear, and it takes a wee minute for me to grow with it. But then it's always super exciting, and these guys are super talented at their arranging skills. So it's very, very exciting. And then answer to your question of how long did it actually take to write, there's a story behind the Ric Flair. Is this. We used to host me and some friends in the band, we used to host a jam session, which is like a night in a pub that musicians from the scene, they can come, and it's like an open stage, and they can just jam with each other and play live with each other. And it's quite a good tool for networking, and also for just getting better at your music. We used to host this thing, and when there was no guests up, I would just quite often make up songs on the spot with the house band. And one night I turned to my man Scott, and I said, "What should I sing out right now?" He said, "Ric Flair." I said, "Right, okay, that's it." So essentially on the spot, the chords sequence was written, and the sort of main hook, the main chorus was written. And quite often when you make songs up on the spot, it's not good. It's not great. But every so often you get a little gem, and you just try your best to remember it. So fortunately, I did remember it. I went home and wrote it a little bit more completely, and it turned into what it is.
Insane. That's amazing, considering you wrote it pretty much off the fly. Just decided, yeah, that'll do. It sounds great.
More or less. I mean, that's it. It's easy enough to come up with like a wee chord sequence, and then later on refine it and make it into something a bit better. So probably if you were to hear the original version as it was created, as the inception of it was happening, probably won't sound a great deal like what it ended up sounding like. But nonetheless, it's that's how a lot of real gems get written. Yeah. And I think not just with regards to us, but a lot of really classic songs will have been written in a really off the cuff and immediate way.
Yeah, definitely. You hear demos all the time, and you think, it's even 3 or 4 years away from actually recording and releasing that track as studio version. It sounds so much different, and a band can evolve music in such a different way. And they might park one for even like 10 years, and they'll release it, and it sounds nothing like the demo.
No, for sure. I mean, I've got some stuff parked, as you say. That's quite a good way to express it. Parked that. From other jam sessions that I mean to revisit at one point, and then see if I can put it into a completed song. There's plenty of stuff there.
Album 2 coming this year then as well.
Yeah.
So with the band being so large, how did you actually get to form the band in the first place? Because obviously it's difficult at most for like myself trying to form a band of 4.
Yeah.
But forming a band for you.
Yeah, the way it came together was quite an interesting and kind of exciting story, and it came together. Its inception was again at jam sessions. Me and 3 of the other guys met at another jam session, and we decided during 2014. In Glasgow, which is where I'm from, which is where the band's from, Glasgow hosted the Commonwealth Games. Now, during that summer, there was a super festival atmosphere in town, and there was like lots and lots of tourists, lots of visitors to Glasgow. So we decided to get together and do some busking and see if we could make a little bit of money. And so that was the very core of the band. And as we were playing, some brass players just walked past and asked if they could join, and then we were pretty au fait with just jamming, spontaneous musical kind of jamming and collaboration. So we were up for that, and then they ended up being able to absolutely slay it, and then they were in the band, and now we're all friends for life. And this is essentially the inception of the band. It was really spontaneous and kind of organic. So we started, so cool. We bust for the rest of the summer and made a little bit of money, and just started doing more and more gigs and kind of making a living out of music. But it wasn't until the last year or a year and a half that we decided to actually throw some effort into making our own music. Okay. So the way we came together was super organic, and we've built upon that to where we are today.
Brilliant. That's a really cool story, actually. And that with the gigs, that sort of ties on to my next question. With a good friend of mine actually went to see your gig at the Blues Kitchen in London.
Right, yeah.
He absolutely loved it. He said that it was insane. And it was funny that I probably listened to you for the first time about 2 days before he went, and I didn't know he was going. And then he said, I went to this really cool gig at the Blues Kitchen, and
so it's just coincidence, right?
Yeah, just massive coincidence. And I said, "Oh my god, how was it?" And I just asked him off the fly just to see what questions he had. Obviously, being at the gig and having that live experience with you guys.
Cool. Yeah.
He wanted to know how the band was arranged live. Is it all completely written, or are there some sort of jam sections, or is it completely because you have that horn section?
Yeah, obviously the horn section, they're playing really intricate parts that need to intertwine with each other and harmonise with others. So they're playing their parts relatively as per the page, as per the written music. But there's solo sections for each of them. Everyone gets a solo section. This is the sort of the jazz roots of it. Is there's musicians, strong soloists in the band, and everyone gets a shot. You know what I mean? So even me, I'm not particularly strong a soloist, but I get a shot at guitar solo every so often. As for like free-form sort of jammed sessions, jammed elements or sections, we don't really do them so much, because this is where we've written these songs and we're very proud of them, and we've jammed a lot of things. But the difference between a jammed song and a properly arranged song is quite stark, and it's quite refreshing for us. We've played a lot of very loose jams, a lot of loose covers over the years. It's quite refreshing and exciting for us to play a well arranged and well honed piece of kind of art, piece of craft for people. And within each of our own parts, we can let loose a little bit. We can express ourselves in subtle ways, but the arrangement as a whole is very important.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's it. So everyone gets solos, but we're not doing big jam wig outs and stuff like that because there's quite tightly arranged songs. Is the answer to that question.
And then that's how it produces into a tight performance in itself.
Yeah. The arrangement is a very important part of the song. Just various little strategic and precise hits that everyone's doing, things like that.
And then he had one more question for you. So how did the free gig, the Blues Kitchen gig was a free gig, how did that compare to the reception of a paid gig?
Actually, you know what? It was great. Blues Kitchen was one of the best gigs there on that tour. I think it's because it's the sort of gig like that where it's a free gig. It's the place is a bar, and then the bar have paid the band to come and be the entertainment. So there's already people there. These people have paid to come they've not paid. They've just come there for a good time. They're just having a drink and wanting to have some good music. And if some good music comes their way, they're really appreciative and they like it. Especially a place like the Blues Kitchen where it's a very live music focused place. So people that are coming there for a specific thing. And as long as you provide the good music. Like if you're no use, if you're no good, then that's a different story. But if you're actually any good, people will really appreciate it in that kind of environment. So that was actually a really, really good gig. Compared to other gigs that we did on the tour, where we were essentially a touring band, relatively unknown, and people pay tickets to come see it. I mean, we were well received in other places, and we got a good turnout that we were very surprised by. Again, these things exceeded our expectations, but these gigs where people have paid to see a band they don't know, it's generally less well attended, and there's a slightly different vibe. But we come from a background of having years and years of pub gigs where we're playing covers, other gigs, and people are just out to have a good time on a Saturday night, and the place is rammed, and some of them know you, some of them don't. So we've come from years of that kind of tradition, just like a lot of the classics have, like classics guys like, Bruce Springsteen for years and years and years, they just played bars. So we were familiar with that tradition, and it's a comfortable environment for us, and the Blues Kitchen was definitely a sick gig for us.
Yeah, that whole pub scene holds dear to my heart as well. I did loads and loads of pub gigs for maybe 3.5-4 years, and we were a blues rock and roll function band, just playing loads of pubs, and it was really, really good fun. It's good, man. It's good way to make a living, and it's good fun. I mean, there's a good with the bad. Sometimes there's some dodgy gigs, and it's not really. It's a bit of a drain, but the good ones are you'll remember. Definitely. And have there been any? This is a sort of off the spin question. In that sense, can you remember any that sort of pop into your mind in that sort of bar gig world? Because I mean, whilst you're thinking, I can remember one where we had a funeral in Brighton, and apparently there was a couple of families there that come from a funeral, and we thought, right, we'll put on a really good gig for them, as well as in this pub they had other audiences. And the we were playing, I think it was Jailhouse Rock, and
right, nice.
I saw a stool being thrown across the bar, and I thought, bloody hell was that? And in the room there was sort of a pillar in the middle, so I couldn't actually see because it was behind the pillar, but I just saw it being thrown across. And the two families had a full-on blown-out fight in the bar, and we didn't really know what to do. No one told us to stop. And in the end, the police carried on, and we were playing Jailhouse Rock at this time as well.
That's very appropriate, very apt.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like years and years, yeah, for sure. Years and years of playing gigs like that. Definitely, you pick up a couple of stories. That sounds like a particularly mad one. Yeah. You just keep on playing. It sounds a bit like the scene in the Blues Brothers where they go and play in the country bar.
Yeah,
they play Rawhide. Classic. There's been a couple of mad things. There's a bar in Glasgow that we kind of kind of cut our teeth in this bar, and sort of learned our trade. And we were playing there every Saturday for best part of a year. It's called Swing, and good friends of ours actually, and we got our start there. That was like the thing we did after the busking. We played in this bar, Swing, all the time, and sort of honed our craft. And sometimes in there it would be absolutely mental. People would just, it was quite a tight bar, quite a small place, but people would just be going off. And one night we were playing there, and there's a sort of weird lighting rig thing attached to the ceiling over some tables. One night one guy was just going off so hard that he started like climbing up it, and basically a whole section of the ceiling kind of fell down. Like on a bunch of people's tables and stuff like that. There's plasterboard and stuff going all over the place, and that was right at the end. It was essentially the last song, or the second last song. So the whole fucking roof just started to cave in a little bit, and we had to wrap up and finish up there. But that was a mad one. Another one, is after we were playing a lot of bars, we ended up picking up, the next stage was picking up a lot of weddings and functions, and that's what we ended up doing for a long time. And that's a scene that's a little bit more of a drain. It's like, I would say it's maybe less fun, less free and loose, because you can do fun things in the bar because it's quite light-hearted, but there's an extra pressure in a wedding. But I remember there's one wedding that really sticks out in my head, and it was like, this was a super fancy, posh and expensive wedding up in a marquee outside a castle in Scotland somewhere. And sometimes those weddings could be a bit funny, but this one was just, all of them just been on it all day. And they were quite posh and obviously affluent and well off people. But they were just going off, and they just didn't care. They were just loving it. They were loving every minute of it. So we played the first dance, and then from that moment on, for the next 2.5 hours, they were just going mental, to the point that it got to the last few songs, and there was broken glass all over the stage, because people kept smashing glasses and falling over. There was blood. I've got guitar pedals. There's like blood on my guitar pedals. Where the fuck did this come from? To the point that at the end, like, everyone was up in each other's shoulders at the end, falling over the stage onto all this broken glass and fucking falling about this place, just getting open wounds seeping. It was like the most gnarly punk rock show that I've ever seen. But it was a well-off posh kind of Scottish wedding. So that was one that stuck in my mind for sure. Blood on the pedal boards, that was something that I'll always remember.
That sounds like, like you say, the most gnarly punk rock show, but it was a wedding as well. It was
an affluent posh wedding.
Then again, posh people do drink quite a lot. I do find.
I think so. I think there's no restrictions on them, and they just drink whatever they want and have a good time. There's certainly a light-heartedness to. I think the theory sort of came together because this is what I noticed quite a lot of the richer, posher weddings we had. They were having just a better time, and I can't help but think it's associated with the lack of stresses that they would maybe have in their life.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
So they were spending fantastic amounts. Incredible amounts of money on a wedding and not really caring, whereas some other weddings that seemed quite expensive, there was a stress associated with it. A stress of look how much money I'm spending. So it's on a sort of deeper level, I think it can say something about what kind of stressors can be associated or are affected with having or not having money. It's not to accidentally say that money gives you happiness. It certainly relieves some stress. These guys just had no cares in the world at that moment anyway.
It reminds me of somebody who said to me about, I went round Oxford. I was living near Oxford one time, and I managed to stumble across a walking tour when I was walking around, and they said that Oxford students are incredibly intelligent, but their sense of direction and sense of just their own welfare is absolutely zilch.
Right.
So they might be incredibly intelligent people, but they just have no clue what they're doing most of the time.
I mean, that's seems like a generalisation, but it's not one that I'm going to disagree with. Perhaps I can see that as being feasible.
Yeah,
and
but it's just a tour
realisable.
guide that just went off on one about it. I was like, It makes
So
sense.
he was doing a tour, and he was just he obviously lives in Oxford.
Yeah,
And he was doing a tour, and maybe he was just fed up with students and went up, just goes off at tourists.
He was a student though. He
Oh,
was
I
a
see,
student, so he's had first-hand experience. So we'll move back onto the band. So after the first couple of songs, you also released a ballad of MC Sickboy, which slipped under my radar personally. I didn't see that come out until maybe a couple of weeks ago. I was like, oh, new song. I didn't realize that. And it's a quality tune. And I just wanted to know the story behind this song and who is MC Sickboy.
Right. Okay. Yeah. There's a story here, and it sort of it did slip underneath quite a few people's radars. I didn't have the same reach as the Ric Flair video. That was attached to a whole scene of people, like a wrestling scene, and that really proliferated that song. So Ballad of MC Sickboy didn't really have that. But I'm very, very proud of the song and very proud of the video as well. Again, it's a DIY video. It's all come from essentially our brains and sort of hashed out in a weird way. But the song and the video reflects the song and tells the story of the song as if it's a sort of short film. But the song tells a story about, it's a real true story about this guy who came into, again, to one of these jam sessions that we were hosting. And this guy came in like a freight train as we were setting up and grabbed the mic and said, "Oh man, you guys are doing a jam session. Can I rap? Can I do a rap?" I said, "Yeah, man, for sure you can." And he's "Oh, amazing, fantastic, brilliant. My name's MC Sickboy, and I've just got out of jail today." Right. So he's just been released from prison that day. He said, I've been in for 3 years. I've just been released today, and I'm a rapper, and I cannot wait to fucking rap right now. I can't wait. So we were like, okay, that sounds great, brilliant. So we just let us set up, and this was right at the start of the night. So there wasn't a great deal of people there, and like again, all of this was reflected in the video. And if you're listening and you've not seen the video, you should check this video out because it's very descriptive and depicts the story quite well. He as soon as we were set up, he came over. We were like, I don't know if this guy's going to be any good. Who is this? This dude. And he counted off the band. He told them what to do and just said, he basically set the groove for the band, which is quite difficult to do. And we just followed him, and he rapped for some minutes. And the subject matter of the rap was brutal, absolutely brutal, mate. It was objectively good rapping, you know. It was a good flow, and the content was hard, but it was well delivered and expressive, and the guy was killing it. There was nobody there to see it, but he was killing it. And but the subject matter was absolutely brutal. It was about smoking crack and being in prison, all this gnarly stuff, and it was really quite offensive. But nonetheless, he was rapping the truth. He was telling his own story, and it was amazing. Then he went off, and we continued with the jam session. And every so often, I would get a glimpse of him at the other side of the bar, getting a little bit more drunk and a little bit more raucous, to the point that I saw him just lying back in one of the booths, just fucking giving the fingers to this, like, fuck it, just like this. And I thought, what's this guy? He's going to get himself in trouble. And he did. He eventually got chucked out. He got chucked out by the bouncer. And I thought, okay, that's him. He's out. He's going up the road. He's going home. And then later on, once the session finished, I went out and spoke to the bouncer. I said, "What, that guy you chucked out? What happened?" He said, he was brutal. He chucked him out, and he threatened to come back with a shotgun and shoot us. Like, he was obviously completely drunk, steaming. Yeah. He came back. He said he was going to come back with a shotgun and shoot us. Gosh. And right then, some police were just walking past, so they just picked him up and put him in the van and took him away. Oh, so no. this guy had essentially, you know, the situation there is like just released from prison. It's definitely some sort of parole situation. So that's almost certainly him back to jail, which I thought was such a tragic, brutal story. You know, this guy is one night of freedom, and he was a nice enough guy, and he had some talent, but he just the way he was wired, he just couldn't stay out of trouble, and he got himself in trouble, and then got sent away. So it was such a poignant and tragic story that I couldn't not tell it in a song. Yeah. You know, that's this theme of somebody who's just stuck in a way of being so much that no matter how much they would like to try and change, they struggle to and fail to. So I thought his story had some value, so I made it a song. And the video tells the story really well. And we filmed the video. It depicts quite faithfully the actual events. And we filmed the video in the bar that we did the jam session.
Right.
And to the point that I got the bouncer, the actual bouncer, who chucked him out in real life, to play the bouncer in the video. Yeah, so that's him. If you watch the video, mate, you'll see that that's the guy.
I'll make sure that everyone else who's listening watches it as well. That is insane.
Yeah. I'm really proud of the video as well, and I would really like a lot more people to see it, because it's sort of like you say, it ended up slipping under the radar a little bit, without having that kind of extra degree of phenomenon. So I'd like more people to see it if possible.
And now that I know the backstory to it as well, it's just going to make the video even more impressive to go see.
Yeah. It's one of these things we knew we were making it. It's like, this is going to require a little bit more attention from people, and it might will definitely affect it. But I'm glad, because this is part of the drip feeding thing I was talking about. It's like the first thing was super immediate, and later on we're going to be requiring more attention of people, and that was the second stage of that.
Okay, so this is leading in on to the release of the album, which at the time of this episode is going live will be this Friday. And it's the 18th of Jan, if you want a specific date. How excited are you for the release?
Man, I'm so excited for people to hear this thing from start to finish, right?
I'm very excited to hear it as well.
Yeah, like I said, people have heard a few songs and heard a few snippets, but they haven't heard all the rest of the songs, and each song stands up so highly, and they're all super strong standalone songs. But the whole thing as a whole, it's a coherent work with like thematic consistency, and I can't wait for people to experience this thing. And you also got to remember that we've had access and we've finished this album like nearly a year ago.
Right.
Yeah, nearly a year ago, and we've just been sitting and working our strategy to this point. So we've got the vinyl. We received that this week, and to hold it in our hands is pretty cool. But I think the thing that's going to be super exciting for me is on the 18th, when it's released, for people to actually listen to this thing. We'll be releasing all platforms, all streaming platforms, and it's really, I've done a lot of music in my time and made a lot of things, but this is the thing I'm most proud of, and I really can't wait for people to hear it.
I'm very excited.
I think it's going to be really valuable to. I mean, some people might just listen to it as a bunch of cool funk songs, but I think there's going to be some people who derive some real value and real power from this thing, and that's my hope. And I can't wait until people hear it. Great.
So you said that the album, you've been sitting on the album for about a year. How long did it actually take to record the whole album, mix it to where it got to a year ago that you've been sitting on?
Yeah. I mean, a year's sort of ballpark thing. We were recording it about this time last year. We were doing the brunt of recording. Yeah. And we originally, because we did this with a crowdfunder campaign, so we had a certain budget to record the album, certain budget to produce it on vinyl and so on. So originally the plan was to go in for 5 days and record this thing, and it was going to be a lot looser. But at the end of the 5 days, it's like, this is not enough time to do the things we have in our ambition. So we just we did another week, and that allowed us to do all sorts of things like bring in backing vocalists. So we got like almost gospel choir sections, bringing in some guest soloists and stuff like that, and really take our time over it and create something that we're truly proud of. So I think all in all, of full tracking, it was maybe 10, 11 days, plus some extra wee bits and pieces. So all the main tracking was done about a year ago, and we did some extra stuff, and then I think maybe April it was mixed and mastered, all by a guy from Glasgow called Gus Stirrett. Fantastic talented guy. He did an amazing job. He was in a band called Fat Suit from Glasgow. It's a massive jazz collective, and they're doing some really exciting things too. So yeah, that's the whole process. It started out being 5 days, and then it grew and grew and grew, and we stopped caring about the money. We just went way over budget, and just that was fine, because we wanted to. Once we started, we realised this we can't we can't half-ass this. This has got to be the real deal.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad at this point that we did that, because it's really, it's an epic, it's a fantastic piece of work, and I can't wait for everyone to hear it.
Perfect. So we talking about the recording process as well. Was it quite hard to step away from a song? Obviously, with the band being, you got so many tracks and so much to input into a song when you're recording. Was it hard to step away and go, okay, I'd like to put more and more layers on it, or a few more bits, but when do you step away from a song?
Yeah, I mean, there has to be a certain amount of time, a certain point at which you say, right, we have to put that to bed. I mean, in a certain sense, like if I had unlimited studio time, there was a lot of extra other, but I mean, we did put a lot of extra stuff on, more than we originally planned to do. But if I had unlimited studio time and unlimited money to do it, there would be a lot more little things. But I think ultimately the extra things that we would have put on extra, they wouldn't have made a massive difference. And now the way that I see the record, it's the way it is. So I think it's good to have some kind of restriction on yourself, some kind of deadline, some sort of cutting off point for you to be able to say it's finished, because that's really an important part of the artistic process, is saying, right, that's it, finished now, that's it, done, and then like letting it go. So, yeah. But the problem is we finished it ages ago, and only now we're letting it go. Just funny that way. But I mean, it's the counterpoint to that is like things like Kanye West. Apparently, famously, he released his album. I think it was the Life of Pablo album. He released his album, did a massive listening party in Madison Square Garden. It was out on Spotify. It was released to the general public, and even still, he was still making edits to it and changing it. So it's like there's some point you have to say this is finished, and and whether that be like, okay, you've run out of studio time, or just actual restraint. That's I think it's important.
Yeah.
To have.
Yeah, then one of the final sections of this interview is going to be about the live section of
right.
Your, any more gigs that are coming up in 2019. Have you got any plans at all?
Yes, we're playing at a host of festivals, but the most important one, and if you're living in Glasgow or the surrounding areas of Glasgow, is our album launch, which is on the 3rd of February in the Glasgow Queen Margaret Union. That's going to be our album launch, and that's going to be the most important show of ours to date. You should definitely, if you're in anywhere near the vicinity of that, you should score some tickets for that, which you can find on our Facebook or Instagram or website or anything. Definitely come to that. You're not going to want to miss that. Apart from that, throughout the year, we're playing at quite a lot of festivals. Some that I can list off just now are Belladrum, at Kelburn Garden Party, various others. I can't say for sure because I don't know which ones have been announced, but we're playing at a slew of festivals, and you should be able to find out what dates and festivals and gigs we're going to be playing from our website, which will be comprehensive in its listings and scheduling for us. Great. So various festivals around the country.
Great. Hopefully I can come to one. It'd be great to see you guys live.
Yeah, absolutely.
A pleasure to come in.
I think we may well be coming down your way at some point.
Oh, okay. I'll have to keep an eye out for that then. So my final question before we wrap up is, after listening to the singles, my main question for the whole band is, can any of the songs on the album get any more funky than what I've listened to at the moment?
Oh man,
they are damn funky.
Let me I'm looking at the record right now, as you can see it, but the people can't see it. There's some really fucking funky shit on this album, man. Like I said, it's an entry. We gave you Ric Flair, and that was a entry level drug in terms of content and also in terms of funk. Right, that was very like, this was a come on, look what we've got, until afterwards we're like, what's this? Check this out, and then absolutely smash people's brains in with funk. Right, there's some fucking really special stuff on here that's gonna be exciting. There's also a variety of different other stuff. There's ballads here. There's some sort of, there's a variety of different flavors here, but there's definitely some hard good funk that's gonna hopefully blow people's brains out.
I am really looking forward to that.
Yeah,
because I mean, Be Gone Skunks. I'm listening to it. I'm like, God damn, it's so funky.
yeah, man, that's a good one. Yeah, there's a couple on there that if that's your bag, there's a couple on here that you'll definitely like. Yeah, for sure, man.
I mean, if you want to sell a record anyway and talk people into trying to buy it, I think you've just sold it to everyone.
Yeah, you know what? This thing's going to be funky as fuck, man. If you don't buy it, you're an idiot. So get one, pre-order one right now on our website, tommcguireandbrassholes.com. Yeah? You get them vinyl, you get them CD, you can download it. Man, it's something special. And it's also not just super funky jams individually. It's a holistic piece of art that you can listen to from start to the end and perhaps gain something more.
I'll tell you what.
How's that for a selling point?
Exactly. I was actually going to give you a minute on the floor of the podcast to talk about whatever you wanted, to sell the record, but...
I think I just did it, didn't I?
I think you just did it then, yeah.
I just took the floor. Just grabbed it. I stormed in and I took the floor.
Tom, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and I wish all the band the best of luck, and you the best of luck for 2019. I think you guys are going to absolutely smash it, and I hope you make waves for this year, because I am definitely going to be putting this album in my top albums of the year. I can already tell, so
Great.
I'm very excited to listen to it and wholeheartedly advertise the shit out of it to everyone. So
thank you so much, mate. I appreciate you having me on, and yes, good. You're a good man. You're a good man, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Palm Sunday, 1981, page 109.